Hello, everyone. Welcome to the masterclass on theory of constraints organized by the Indian Chamber of Commerce and supported by 3P Technologies. We are all going through very difficult times, times that are challenging, uncertain, and critical. The new normal is unprecedented, but very, very real. As we all try to grapple with this situation, it is best to utilize this time to equip ourselves better, add skills, increase our knowledge, and learn from our experiences. The Indian Chamber of Commerce, with its legacy of almost a century, it was established in 1925, has been instrumental in supporting Indian businesses across industry verticals. Today, as a leading national chamber, the ICC has been working closely with various state governments, the central government, as well as other national and international bodies. It is our pleasure to have with us today Dr. Eli Schragenheim, renowned international management educator, author, and consultant from Israel. He has worked closely with the inventor of the theory of constraints, Dr. Goldratt, for 25 plus years, I think, and has co-authored a book with him titled Necessary but Not Sufficient. He has also authored several books himself. Well, Dr. Schragenheim, I'm sure we would all learn a lot from you in the next 1 hour or so that we are here. For our participants, Ali would be presenting, but he will stop in between for questions in case you have questions. And if you feel that you would like to ask any questions apart from that also, you could all have audio and video access, so you could ask him the questions. But when the presentation is on, may I request you all to put yourselves on mute so that there is no disturbance. So with that, I would hand over the baton to Eli to take things forward. Eli, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Actually, I'm very glad to be here because I think this is kind of an overall problem and suddenly to realize that in the theory of constraints, for many years, we've, I think, developed some very important tools to help us exactly in some kind like this, even though no one of us really thought about how this happened and all the other details. So I like now to share my screen with you. And let us go into kind of a journey about the theory of constraints and how can we use it in such kind of a time. I hope everybody sees my screen. If not, please stop me. Okay, I'm going on. Fellows, this is my definition of the theory of constraints, what it is all about. It is my definition. I don't know if everybody will agree to it, but this is the way I see it. Because I see the theory of constraint as a management approach. It is really developed on scientific principles. Please see that Dr. Eli Goldratt, who really invented TOC, was a physicist. And he came from the hard sciences into management in order to put some of the principles of hard sciences with logic, with cause and effect, in order exactly to guide us managers of all types of organization in making reasonably good planning and execution decision in complex and uncertain environments. That I'm sure this is the way you look on your own organization as really complex and quite a lot of uncertainties that exist all over the place. Now, Let us see something like this. In these kind of times, what is certain that we need a change. But what kind of a change? We need to improve. We need to be ready for quite a lot of surprises, so to say. So one of the key questions that we put is what to change. Because trying to change everything is a huge mistake, huge, because it unfocused you and eventually you achieve nothing. So really the first question is, from everything that's going on, and nothing is perfect, nothing, what we need to change that will make significant potential improvement. And for that we need focus. And definitely we need to avoid all kinds of initiatives that eventually, because they are local, they do not achieve global impact. And by the way, even if they are global, but they do not achieve overall very significant impact, why go there? There are some other areas that the improvement of them will be so much beneficial. And only when we know what should be changed, only now we can ask the question what to change to. In other words, if this is the case, what is a solution? And the solution, what we expect from a solution is something that will improve the performance of the organization. And again, I will add to it, improve it significantly. This is what we look for, what will significantly improve the performance of the organization. Fellow, then there is the third stage that we cannot limit how important it is, because eventually many very good solutions, they fail in the execution itself. Well, too many times it put on the natural resistance to change. I want to make something clear. For me, resistance to change is understandable and also natural. It's natural because any change put me into a new uncertain areas. And we understand maybe now much better what does it mean uncertain. Now, so many meaningful changes, so many they cause chaos because from the change itself, there are many valid reservations that no one paid attention to. And this needs to be settled. We need to listen to reservation, and we need, with very good cause and effect logic, overcome them. Eventually, we have obstacles, and we need, within the organization, to enhance harmony. Now, fellow, we all know that we are coming into a new area. Because let me say something very clearly. The economy will not return to the pre-COVID state. Even when COVID-19 will get under full control and we will have the vaccination and everything works fine. Fellow, it took too much pain and it will not go to the same level. First of all, when we look on the changes in the market, we need first of all to think about the end customer. The end customer, those are really using the product and services that we brought. And we need to look what will be the change in their behavior, because let me tell you, there will be a change. Probably quite a lot of purchasing will go under a much more cautious way of, do we really need it? Fellow, in the current way of the market, I don't know exactly how much in India, even though I was so many times in India itself, how many people buy things that actually they don't need. Because this is our natural reaction. When we have money, we like to spend money. And many times we buy things that we don't need. And probably we will do it to a less degree once we go over this plague. And also because of the state that people are, the fear, the economic concerns, people will come out with a different set of priorities. What is really important in our life? What we really want to achieve? What is not so important, so let us not go into it. I like to make some kind of warning, because when we go into this kind of state that people feel we are after the crisis, there could be a kind of a temporary wave, because somehow we need to compensate ourselves for something that we have lost. So for instance, if I had in mind to do a certain trip to somewhere in the world that I was very eager to see, maybe my first thing will, let us still do this plan because this COVID stopped me to do this. Just take it into account. When we look on the behavior of the market, this is probably something very temporary. So could be that after the crisis, there will some temporary trends, but then they will go back and make some changes. So I think it is a duty of every executive, every owner, every manager of every business to analyze the predicted changes in the specific market segment that they are in, and still be ready for surprises, because we can do something very rational about the changes in the market, but maybe we are wrong, maybe we might be wrong, who knows? So eventually we need to understand something else. With all our efforts to predict what's coming, we need to be very flexible, much more flexible than we used to be in 2019, much more flexible, much more resilient to changes, because we have seen what does it mean. And even after the crisis, we still don't know what will be all the aftershock that we went through. This means new requirements from the business, from the management, because there is an increased level of uncertainty, because we are not sure. We lost quite a lot of our intuition about the market, because again, the market is not going all the way back. So something very natural, we need to respond quickly to observed changes in the market. First of all, we like to predict them as much as possible, absolutely. But then again, we might face surprises in the behavior of the market. And so we need much more agile supply chains than we ever had. And we need product to be available. And we need inventory levels to be low enough, because again, we are not putting too much investment in something that, I don't know, maybe it's not needed. And so we need to come with very fast and reliable replenishment system. And by the way, when we have low inventory levels and we react fast to any change that we see in the market, naturally, we release considerable cash. And cash, please, became a constraint to many businesses. And this is important that we will see that we are releasing cash that we don't really need, the cash that we don't really need to start with. And then, of course, we need to watch emerging trends. And then I have another kind of warning, because currently, to my mind, the vast majority of the organization offer to the market too much variety of product and service, all this mix. Why do we need all these alternatives? Okay, when people spend money because they have money, this is one thing. But fellow, post-COVID, customer, I assume, would expect not that wide varieties of products. So put what is important, put the variety that is important because they have different demand or different needs. Don't give too much, and this also will release quite a lot of cash. Which, by the way, also means less slow movers. I will have slow movers only if this, well, this is relatively slow, but there is a segment that really appreciates it and needs it. And by the way, that segment also buys other products of what I do. So I better still provide it. But I would make the question on any slow mover, do we really need it? Fellows, there is a common dilemma. By the way, this is part of the powerful tools of TOC is to put anything that we view as a problem in the shape of a conflict. And here we start. We like to have increased profits. And in order to increase profit, our sales need to be well protected, which means we have high inventory of everything that we really like to sell. However, this is only one part, because in order to increase profit, also our costs need not to be too high, otherwise we lose all of it. And so eventually we need low inventory. So here is an ongoing conflict between having high inventory and having low inventory. Question, okay, what is right? This question is a key enough question, so I put a lot of emphasis on it throughout our way on this particular presentation. But right now, I like to put some generic TOC insights that encompass manufacturing and the other parts in the supply chain like distribution and retail. And generally speaking, the TOC insight, I think there are many insights, but I like to cut them into two or classify them into two different classes. One, which is really, this is the focus of it, focus on leverage points, which means identify the one. Sometimes there are more than one, but very few. Constraints to the flow of product and services. This is where Goldratt started his way into a full management approach.
Shall I interrupt over here?
Yes,
I'm very sorry to interrupt. So actually, I have a question that you have said high availability of products is should be in our focus now. And again, you were saying we have to maintain the low inventory. So I am not getting that. If I don't have the high availability of products, so and if the availability is there, then inventory will be impacted, isn't it?
Look, availability means even if you have only small amount of what is needed in the market, this is enough as long as you will be able to replenish fast. But please give me a little bit more time because I'm going to it, because what you put is a classical question. Okay, if we have low inventory, how we keep our availability? And yes, availability is the key. And also low inventory, we should go into it. So it's on me right now to eventually give you an answer. But it will take a little bit of time.
Thank you.
Right now, okay, I am coming back to the TOC insight in two classes. One class is the leverage point, like the constraint, which is in itself is a very important insight. It tells you that if you have one thing that is actually your weakness point, your weakness point is also your strength, is what you, because if I improve it, I improved. I improved the performance. So I need to exploit the performance of the weakest link. This is a huge insight. And I need to understand the profitability of everything, because please believe me, I'm not going today into it, but the cost accounting and the cost per unit of cost accounting have misled us in a huge way, and we need something different. But there is another, a whole suite of insights coming from TOC that look on what I call common and expected uncertainty. I'm not looking on what is a probability that a new virus will suddenly come up and sweep through the whole world. This is a risk, a big risk. I'm not speaking about it. I'm speaking about what already looks like normal. What is normal? Normal is today I had 10 different orders. Tomorrow I might have 15. The day after maybe only 7. This is normal. Why? Because I don't know why, but there are always fluctuations in the demand. And if you look at it, you have also quite a lot of fluctuation in the supply. How quick can I get what I need? And I need to protect availability. And this is exactly what the question was right now about, without having to invest in so high inventories. How to do it? This is a key. It's a key question. And I need more than that. I need flexible operation to adapt to changes in the market. What happens if the market moves to new product? How fast can I go into new product? How much can I go into a new way of selling? Like right now, people are, 10 years ago, most purchasing was done by physical stores. More and more, there is a move to digital stores, buying from the internet. Okay, if I have really flexible operation, maybe we can do also this. Okay, we need this flexibility. Another very generic insight that actually ties both ends, both the leverage points and the common and expected uncertainty, which is the difference between planning and execution. Because this is a key, and fellow, I know in software it's not yet specific enough. What is the difference between making plan and reacting to whatever is happening now, giving also the plan in mind? So let us look a little bit. Planning is everything about the future. I need to decide or to make some kind of a plan about what action I'm going to take in the future. So I start with a required sequence of action. One I need probably to do already, but there are many that are for next week, and maybe a week later, and maybe once later, depending on the horizon of my planning. And I need to express the intermediate objectives that I need to achieve. I need to achieve that I have a good availability all over my operation, and I need to make some kind of decision what I hold and what I don't hold, what I produce and what I don't produce, and whether we go into a new market segment or not. And eventually, if we speak about stock, we need to define the right stock buffers at the right location to deal with all the uncertainties that now there is this acronym of VUCA, of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity of reality, which is kind of a nice description of all the formats of uncertainty, which all of it I call common and expected uncertainty, not just a big risk. And here comes kind of an insight that is so damned important. planning must be focused only on the absolutely required elements, because there is so much uncertainty that I need to leave to the execution phase quite a lot. And I need the execution phase to be highly responsive to any change in the market and in the supply, but please don't override my planning, because otherwise I would assume it was a very bad planning. So, fellow, we need to maintain the most updated priorities of what we do now and what we do next. This is a very important challenge. What do we do next? And in order to eventually come up with it, we need a priority system. And more than that, we need one priority system, because when we have more than one, what is the most important thing that I need to do now if one priority scheme telling me do X and the other tell me do Y? We need this clear distinction between planning and execution. And this is an important insight going throughout all the TOC applications. Some words about make to order and make to stock. Generally speaking, what we call supply chains are mainly focused on just moving stocks. And because of this, to my mind, when I look on supply chains, I'm telling them, all your challenges are about how to manage common and expected uncertainty. This is all the art in supply chains. When I come to manufacturing, and then of course you do things, you create new things. I mean, you buy materials and you create new things. Manufacturers are torn, and there is huge confusion when they received orders with due dates, but still produce a lot to stock. I'm not going into now speaking much about it, but please keep it in mind. If somehow you need it, then please approach me after this presentation, maybe to learn a little bit more. So in TOC, we are making very clear distinction between make to order, for which we use time buffers. Because if I need at let us say August 1st to deliver this amount of things, so I need to be prepared for August 1st, and I need until then to deal with all the uncertainties that I have. With make to stock, I sort of claim, you the client come in and just grab what you want and I have it available for you. And then we need buffers that are stated in stock, not in time. Sorry? Was there a question? Okay. This presentation focuses mainly on managing stock. It's relevant when it comes to stock, both for manufacturing and who produce to stock, and of course to supply chains. The key points of supply chain are relevant for manufacturing, but there are some points that are more unique to manufacturers that I will go to a little bit towards the second part of the presentation. Fellows, this is, I think, a good point where I can stop and really look for questions. Anyone that...
बुखार जो है वो है थोड़ा सा. All good.
Can I please ask everybody to put yourselves on mute, please?
किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है अभी. नहीं वो.
Okay, this will be good. Fellow, any...
नहीं, बुखार के अलावा और प्रॉब्लम.
Anandita, can you please put them on mute? Anandita, I think there is some disturbance from some speakers. Could you please put them on mute?
Please.
Sorry, Eli, you can please continue.
Good. Okay. I like to put an observation. A pile of inventory is subject to two, most of the times are independent, uncertain actions. Here is inventory. On one hand, coming demand and take out part of the inventory. And we can put it into an average pace, which means average sales or whatever. But this is also have quite a lot of fluctuations. But remember, there is the other side, the side of the supply. So supply has a typical replenishment time. Again, it does have average and it does have fluctuation. It does have something more, which says, generally speaking, the frequency of supply is so and so. It's more than the replenishment time, because the replenishment time could be a 1 month between when I put an order and until I get it. But maybe that I'm getting a shipment every week, which makes it a little bit safer, my overall supply. And then there, of course, the question of quality, which always exists in a big way. So those two are both relevant to define how much we need to store. And I think this is already something, because wherever I look on supply chains, even on manufacturers, they are very much focused on the forecast side, which is trying to answer some question about the demand, much less about the supply. And again, what we need to have here is a combination. And sometimes a combination will put us a simpler challenge overall. Okay, there are some secondary things that have some kind of impact on the level of inventory, like what is the true damage of a shortage? And of course, what is the cost of the inventory, which is really investment that we make. First, practical insight. Let us fix stock level. Let us not move it in a way that only increase the noise. Because if we do very frequent reforecasting, every 2 days we do a forecast, and the horizon of the forecast is 6 months from now. There is much more noise coming into the system just by doing it. It's like shutting our eyes in the way of realizing there are common and expected uncertainty, or sometimes we can call it the noise in the system. We need to stabilize this and make a change only when a change is inevitable. I mean, it's very clear that you need more or you can have less. Something else that comes into it, when we look into what is stock, we don't only look on our own hand, we look also on what is in the pipeline, what is already, we made the commitment, and because of this, it's part of our investment. It makes so much more sense. I can speak that currently I have on hand 80 units of whatever I need. It could be raw material for my production. It could be finished goods that I keep, 80. But I have 120 on the way to me, which means my overall commitment, financial commitment, is for 200. Now think a little bit about it. If I have 80 and today I consume either by sales or I produce 20. So my level goes down to 60. Can I immediately replenish it back to 80? No, I have already 120 on the way. Now probably I need to put another 20 on the way. So it does not make sense. The sense is I need to look on the total of on hand plus on the way. And I know what I really need is on hand. I will come back to it. So we need to define how much we need to have from every SKU in every location, and we call it target stock level. But remember that the target stock level includes all the pipeline. And then we need to monitor it in real time. And if we need, and only when we need to change it dynamically based on the market fluctuation and also on the supply fluctuation. And I think part of the bitter lessons that we had in this COVID-19 is also the problems in the supply to us. So the simple procedure is issue a replenishment order at the end of every day. Whatever was sold or consumed, immediately replenish it. Order what needs to be done in order to keep the target stock level fixed, unless there will be the need to change it. And we will see it later, the dynamic warning that whatever you keep is not enough, or maybe it's way too high. So how do we determine the stock level? It's both selling point or consumption point, because managing the raw material for a manufacturing is exactly coming into it. So we need target stock level, and it needs to be equal to the average sales within average replenishment time. You see, if my replenishment time is 2 months from when I make an order until I'm getting it, or it could be within the manufacturer whenever I'm selling and until I will complete another batch of this. This is the average replenishment time. So my target level definitely needs this, but this is only the average. On top of it, I needed to cover normal fluctuation in demand, including also delays in replenishment. So this is another way to define it. So this is something that we need to evaluate the best that we can. Now, TOC has a very clear mechanism, not mechanism, it's kind of an insight about how do you go with uncertainty? And it is always, you start with a guess, but you will put signals to show to you as soon as possible whether your guess was about right or wrong. Because all the mathematics in the world will not really tell you exactly what you need to put. So there are fluctuations in the system, which includes things that no mathematical model does know in advance. So what we need, another clear insight, we need to have the fastest replenishment times that we can, because its impact on our inventory and on our control on the inventory is huge. And please understand this, because the longer the replenishment time is, the higher are the demand and replenishment time fluctuations. If we have a replenishment time of 48 hours, This is one thing, and in 48 hours, we have, let us say, very good intuition how we are going, what we will need tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. But if we look on replenishment time of 3 months, 3 months from now, we are in July right now. So we speak now about what, October? October looks to me, certainly in these times, like, I don't know, so much time. I mean, I don't know what will happen in October. But in 48 hours, well, I know pretty much. So, fellows, there is a need, a strategic need to cut the replenishment time and to look for all the means to cut the replenishment time. An obvious part of the replenishment time is the order time. Order time means how long does it take us to issue another order, to replenish, to initiate the replenishment. How long does it take? Minutes, a day, a week, a month? The other parts of replenishment time. So this part of the replenishment time is us. I mean, if I sold today, and I will order eventually in a week, this week is part of the replenishment time. The other parts of course, the supplier, if my supplier is a manufacturer, he needs production time. If it's not, he needs to organize it. And then there are transportation time. Okay. Let us see just a little bit of what does it mean. This is a normal description of inventory management. There is a graph of the consumption, and from time to time it goes slowly down because there are sales. From time to time it jumps up. This is a supply coming in, then goes again, then go, you see here how it was close to shortage. Now, the reorder idea came in order to try to optimize something. My question will be, do we really need this kind of optimization? Because here something is defined, and it is a pretty common mechanism of reorder point. We say, at this level, whenever we go below it, only then we issue an order. So until the order will arrive to us, we will have production lead time, and we will transportation time, and then, oh, thanks God, it arrived. And now we have this order lead time, because we already started to sell, but we will react only when we come here to the point that we think we should protect us from the fluctuations in the market. So, okay, this is the way it works. Let us say how it can work. This just shows you on average, the inventory level here and here. And please have a look. The only change that were made, order lead time went into a minimum time, let us say 1 day. Then, of course, also production lead time of the supplier were shorter because the batch was much smaller. Okay, the supplier might have some kind of batch policies, etc. But we don't need to add to it. It's bad enough that they are doing it to us, maybe combining several days' order together. But eventually, what we get is something. It's so much more under control. So we have much less inventory, but so much better control over it. Fellows, this is mind-boggling. My partner, Shurab, would like you really to tell us a little bit a little bit about yourself, and you as a chat. So if you'd like to help us, please do. How much you are ordering? You are ordering according to fixed days, like every week, every month, etc. All this reordering point, in which when we come lower than a certain level, then we are ordering a whole batch of replenishment. And while you do this, anybody with a question so far, please come forward, open your mic, and ask me directly. Any questions so far? Any questions? Of course, we will have also in the end questions, but if something, I'd like to have, if something really bothers you now, that you come here. This is why I'm here. Okay, I'm going on now. Setting the priorities. I already mentioned it as this is the key, and it is a key. And here is the idea. The idea is, on one hand, our target level, we sometimes call it the stock buffer. It encompasses both the on hand and what is in the pipe. But it gives us a look of how the on-hand stock behaves. It's not constant because we sell or consume materials every day, but it changes all the times. Stock going out, stock coming in, stock part, whatever.
Sorry, Eli, I'll just interrupt for a minute. Just for the benefit of all the listeners. So these poll questions typically, Eli, meant is like people can reply on their chat, like what is your way of working currently. So that would help Eli as well as you all, for everybody to guide the presentation the way Eli is doing, the flow of it. So I just got one answer from the previous poll question, which is said quantity based. That is in terms of like how you order. So there are a couple of other poll questions, and I would really encourage people to participate so that we can have a better understanding of the way TOC can help you all. Sorry, you can continue, Eli. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. So right now, as I told you, the overall stock level, which includes the pipeline, we try to keep constant as much as possible. I still need to answer the question when we change it and how and based on what. Yes. But we look very much on how much we have. So we created the idea of what is the status of this particular SKU, this particular item that we keep in stock. And this status is defined as a percentage of target level minus on hand, which means how much of the target level we don't have on hand, we hopefully have it somewhere in the pipeline of the target level. And we look on this percentage, and this tells us where we are. And where we are is something like this. We are in the green, which means the vast majority of the target level is really on hand. Then we have the yellow. Well, we have about half in, half on the way. Or we have the red. Only less than 1/3 is on hand. And we have this warning, I don't want to get black, because then I will lose sales. And I cannot afford to lose sales, certainly not in these times. And this gives us kind of an idea that will lead to priority. Let us make it a little bit more specific, even though I think you probably already got the general idea, because we are using these very well known from our transport system, green, yellow, and red, and what we need to do. Green means, generally speaking, we are okay. Actually, we have even more than okay. We have too much stock. Okay, from time to time, we will find ourselves, we hold maybe even all the target level is on hand. But this is not the normal. It should not be the normal. We should not be that too long of the time we are in the green. You already kind of idea about when we will try to change the target level. Our normal is actually to be somewhere in the yellow, somewhere, because it will never be on a 1 point. So it's fluctuating normally between 1/3 and 2/3. Sometimes it jumps to the green, but sometimes it's also going down to the red. And when the red, there is a flag. It is a red flag. It means the situation of this item is not okay. There is a risk. We still have something, I hope, otherwise it will be black. But there is a risk of running out. So if we can do something to bring in the replenishment that should be already in the pipeline, we should take those steps. Fellow, here you see the priorities, and actually they see, generally speaking, when I'm a manager in a company, I like to see the red actually on the top. What items are in red? Then I will look on the yellows, and I will maybe have also some brief look on the green, but the green, I don't need to worry too much about the green right now. Here comes the question. When do we have eventually target levels that is too high or too low? The behavior of the on-hand give me this signal. When I look every day I look on how the stock behaves on every SKU. At least I could have a software that will look into it. Then I already understand. When an SKU goes too often into the red and stays there for quite a while until eventually replenishment, oh, God forbid, we almost was in the black and then it came. Or maybe we even went into the black. This means, generally speaking, your target level is too low and you need to take action to increase it. But I'm getting also the other side of when the SKU stays too long in the green, why the hell we have that much of inventory? We don't need that much of an inventory. Hello, these are generic signals. I'm not going here in the very short time I can tell you exactly to how this kind of algorithm is built on. But please understand, for the software people, this is, if you know, a great idea. I can come up with an answer which will tell me when the target level is too low and when I am too high, and the 80% probably that are about right, don't mess with it. This is about the right target level that you are holding. And this is of a critical importance of how I look on common and expected uncertainty. I don't try to be too sophisticated because it will kill me. It will kill me to reforecast every week or so to see whether each of my target level are about right or because of some changes in the market or in the supply and need to change. Fellow, please see, reforecasting very frequently is a huge mistake. it will make me much more unstable. And by the way, certainly it's not me saying, not even Eli Goldratt. Dr. Deming said it much before that. If you look on him speaking about quality, of course, he was really saying that trying to change the setup time or something like this too often will only increase the noise, not reduce it. So whenever you are within the control chart, keep going. Deming. And I only interpreted it not just for a control chart on a quality, but on how much to hold. So these are the three indicators to be managed by software usually, which control huge number of SKUs, because please see, I need to manage every SKU on every location. Usually it comes to a pretty high number. If I speak about manufacturing, maybe I can do it by me if I don't have a huge number of SKUs. But I might come even more to it in a while. I'd like to go back into some of our poll questions in which you can help us and help yourself also, I think, on what you do. So again, if you can give us in the chat, give us answers. Do you determine the stock level of every location based on what? Does it connect to the sales target or to something else? Maybe you do exactly what we do, what I've suggested. But then you need to be a TOC, guys, because I haven't seen it anywhere. I haven't seen the green, yellow, red in the way I've outlined here anywhere outside of the TOC world. Maybe you will tell me something that I never knew. Okay, we will do. And again, how do you react to change? Is it based on your client pushing you, or every planning that you do, you change it, like every forecast, even if you don't do it that often? Should you change it every forecast? And I want to stress again, a forecast, the way I know, is looking only on the demand. But changes could happen also on your supply. And maybe you don't know what happens to your supplier. Maybe an ownership was changed, and now the whole supplier will change. Maybe some politics came around. Maybe there are some problems in other areas of the country. Let me go now.
Eli, we got some response from the previous slide of yours.
Yes.
So we have people saying, how do they determine their stock level, whether on sales target? So few people have said no, they don't determine based on sales target. And in terms of frequency of changing stock, it is like, of course, like they said, few people are determining their stock level on a periodic review, and few are determining based on the demand. And
okay, based on the demand, but again, what about the supply? Okay, fellow, I like it. You come here to maybe listen to new ideas, and I think this is kind of the idea of how I look on the combination impact of the demand on one side and the supply on the other side. And again, it goes through supply chain and manufacturing. Manufacturing could look at it from 2 points of view: the finished goods stock on one hand and the raw material stock on the other hand, and everything what I told there implies here. So fellow, please look, when I speak about manufacturing, and one of the key questions, key challenge, I would say, of manufacturing is how do we control the flow of work in process? On one hand, we have the demand, and we have stock of raw materials to maintain, and we have capacity to maintain, especially the capacity of the weakest link. If you are already on the mindset of TOC, you will say, well, a lot of my resources have a lot of excess capacity, but what really counts is the capacity of the weakest link. So the manufacturer dilemma, again I come back, dilemma. Every challenge, every problem is eventually the outcome of a conflict or a dilemma, and I think I'm getting more insight when I put it this way of a dilemma between delivery reliably according to the expectations of the client, because we understand how the client is important. On the other hand, there is an absolutely need to utilize well the huge expensive capacity of machine, equipment, and manpower. And in these times, we feel the impact of the cash that we need to pay in order to keep the capacity, keep the equipment, keep the manpower. And I want just to state two very important TOC insights. First of all, manufacturing, you have to realize that the vast majority of your resources have to have protective capacity. So it's not just, it happened. It is an absolutely need. And if you don't see it, it's because your people try to cheat you and don't see that actually they are not so much loaded. Because with all the common and expected fluctuations, eventually you need stock to one hand to a little bit reduce or protect from this fluctuation, but the other hand, you need it also that you need the extra capacity. So if you have one resource that is pretty much loaded, please see the inevitable necessary condition that you have enough access on all the other resources. This is a natural state, and the one thing is it tends to be lost because of numbers and people trying that you will not fully see the real issue. Now, when it comes to make to order orders, I am protecting, my key protection mechanism is not so stock. I don't use stock for orders, I use time buffers. The idea of buffer management, the idea of red, yellow, green is the same in make to order. Only then we look on time instead of stock. Sorry, I cannot go deeper into it. Again, if and when you will need deeper, we will need to come up with another hour to tell you about the key ideas for make to order. Now, the whole idea of buffer management, especially of going into the red, has a special relevance for manufacturing. Because in manufacturing, you have your flow of work in process under your hand. And so the pipeline is under your full control. Now, every production order is getting buffer status, no matter whether it's for stock or whether it is for order. It looks on its buffer and it tells, based on the buffer I need to serve, how much I am. Do I have all the time in the world like I'm in the green, or I'm already in an emergency zone like I'm in the red? And this is the outcome of very simple software calculation. So all work centers throughout the shop floor needs to have direct access to the buffer management priorities. You need to tell them, actually, the key is I'm telling every operator what you need to do next based on the color. If I'm an operator and I have 2 different production orders that wait for me to process, if I see red, there is no question red needs to be first before any other color. If I don't have red, I will prefer yellow on green anytime. If I have 2 yellow, I will need to make my own judgment. But I need to have yellow before green. So we use expediting. We use overtime when required, based on it. And you can already see that overtime and expediting, in the TOC world, they are done when they are red, not when there is yellow. All over the implementations that I've seen thousands of them, because not just those in which I was involved directly, I am in touch with all the TOC experts in the world, which tell me how much on-time delivery and availability delivery was so much improved by the use of buffer management. You know, for me, this is the key secret of TOC, even more than the looking into what is a constraint, is this kind of understanding that we should not be confused. We need to get this signal, what is in red, what is in yellow, what is in green. And just a little bit more on it, because it's so much. Expediting, generally speaking, I call it special efforts that are used only when there is a real need, because there are all kinds of other undesired ramifications to expediting, from cost to intervening with something else. And so, in manufacturing, increase capacity like overtime, like extra shift. I'm not speaking about buying another machine. This is a very special move. But even overtime is for extra cost. And we need it only when there is a need for expediting, and buffer management tell us very clearly when. And I think this extra cost is very important to take, because keeping a reputation is worthy of this cost. Now let us speak about distribution, because there you have less chances, but you still need to develop it, and I think it is even to a strategic level. I would like to have a possibility, even when usually I don't get it by flying. But if it is to prevent stock outs, I will like to have it. Then I may go to have a special suppliers in which maybe I pay more, but then I buy from them only what I need in urgent. And I manage my urgency based on this secret of buffer management. Some more poll questions. How do you rate yourself? Because here I'm asking a very generic question. You have delivery performance, whether you are a distributor, retailer, manufacturer, a service provider, whatever. No firefighting, everything just in time, etc. Well, most of it are on time, but some needs firefighting, or there is pretty much a lot, or actually everything is under fire. I hope you are not in D. I hope you can go out of it. C&B can be vastly improved. Keep in mind, fellows, I just ask you if you can let us know.
Yeah. Most of the answers we are getting is on B. And then I guess we have one special and nice one of A saying he always meets the order.
Okay, if A has a special secret, I would like at the end, please, even tell us how the hell you do it. And there is one possibility that you can do A, and this is when you have excess capacity all over the place. And if you have this much, and you have this kind of flexibility, you are very good. But come on, you need much more market. And when you get much more market, then suddenly you will find yourself going to B and maybe even into C. This is the way I look at it. Okay, you know about yourself much better than me, right? I don't know your business. I'd like to speak only one slide about the need for software support, especially when the number of SKUs is so large. Because in a typical way, it is large. Of course, there are some manufacturers that have very limited amount of different SKUs. And then, you know what, they might even be handled without any sophisticated software or TOC software, at least not. But when you have quite a lot of SKU location, hey, you need it. We cannot have in our mind too many things to do at the same time. And we need some help in determining initial stock target levels. And every time we have a new product, a new model, or we open a new retailer or something like this, we need to have a new target levels. We need to create the right size purchase, how much to replenish. We need to see what is in transport so we can expect it soon, and certainly production orders, to initiate production orders. And we need to create and display buffer management priorities. I cannot make more of this. This is of a critical way to make things so simpler and under so much better control. But then we still need from time to time to change the target levels when required. So we have the appropriate system. So then if you need or like to know more, of course, you should contact Shurab. And there are some others also, fellows. So, I mean, there is always competition. Just a summary. Need to create the required flexibility, and this should be done without to invest too much in stock. And we need to reduce stock and still achieve great availability. Yes, it is possible. And yes, we need also to have very good control on the capacity of what is constraining us, and probably also some other critical resources. And we need to stabilize the stock and look on the stock always as on hand plus the pipeline, and then also monitor what is on hand, but also replenish as fast as possible and look to shorten this replenishment time as much as possible. Then, of course, follow buffer management, the powerful priority mechanism. Then getting the signal whenever there need to change the target levels. All the above are truly required to keep all the commitment to the market and to take the responsibility for the required change, for any change in the market. Fellow, this is what I really wanted to tell you in one plus a little bit of an hour. And really, I'd like you to come up now with all the questions that you have in your mind. And you can challenge me, and you can question me, and you can raise any doubt that you have in your mind. Please come up. You can unmute your microphone and just give me a question.
So, would request everyone, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask the question. I think everybody is happier being quiet and not asking.
So maybe,
Yeah.
maybe Eli, I don't know, but for the benefit of the initial question, what we had with one of the participant was on the challenge to maintain the right inventory, like probably the second or the third slide of yours, which mentioned about balancing the sales. So I'm guessing if you can probably throw some light, because I'm sure like people know that can be managed through because of this dynamic buffer management. But if anybody has any more clarity required on that, maybe Eli can go through that, or whatever other questions you may have.
Can I ask the nice woman who asked the original question if you can come up again, at least to tell me whether you got an answer?
Yeah, this is Sharmishta. Actually, I got the answer. I have to do some deep down also on the notes I have taken, and then only I can answer it boldly. But right now, for the buffer management, yes, I understood that, and that MTO and all that, that will help me answering my questions on myself. So I will definitely figure out something, sir. This is very good section, actually. I got a lot of knowledge because I am working with inventory and I am facing this challenge sometimes because we are in heavy metal industries. So, and right now in the pandemic situation, we are facing a lot of troubles with inventory. So that's why I was asking you. Anyhow, I got the answer, sir. Thank you so much.
Great. And you and all the others, please, you have my email, you have how to contact us, and please, I'm answering any questions at any time. Questions are coming to me. This is my main, I see my really role is really to ask a question and to support any TOC implementation anywhere in the world. So people, more knowledge, much less knowledge, are coming to me to ask questions. That's it. And I really like to answer.
Eli, we have one request, but I know it's a very vast topic, but they are asking, can you talk about drum and rope as well? But yeah.
Generally speaking, drum buffer rope is an acronym based on the story that Eli Goldratt included in his very first and most famous book, The Goal. Generally speaking, if we TOC, like I say, is focusing on the leverage point. And the leverage point is actually the constraint. And so if we have a constraint, the first thing, and we know what is a constraint, because the first thing is to identify what is a constraint. And then comes the second thing in which exploit the constraint. The name drum is actually, once you understand it, this exploitation plan is a drum. This is the pace in which the organization should work accordingly. Here comes the drum. Then comes the buffer. Because there is common unexpected uncertainty, things happen. And if I have, suppose I have a resource that is a constraint, and is starving because no material came to it because somebody has forgot to order the materials on time. So here comes a buffer. You need to buffer your constraint and also your market, by the way, from all those fluctuations. You need a buffer. A buffer could be time, could be stock, by the way, could be money. And this could be quite relevant. A cash buffer is a buffer. So drum, buffer, rope. The last one, rope, is telling us something extremely important. If you already put a buffer, don't expand the buffer just because you want it. The name rope came from the story because the story was about a group of people walking, and there is naturally someone who is slower than all the rest. So one thing is you put him in the middle, not at the end, and then you put a rope between him and the one that goes as fast as possible in order not to get lost. So the one gets fast, know when he needs to go slower. So generally the idea is, again, I have a buffer. The buffer should be enough. I'm not increasing the buffer just because it will cost me a little bit less. So if I need to have a buffer of 10 units of stock, I don't need 20, I need 10. If 10 and buffer management tell me 10 is enough, 10 is 10, not 20. So don't replenish me to 20. Replenish me to 10, please. This is a rope. So just to give you this one brief outlook on the well-known term drum buffer rope.
Eli, just a request, could you please close the screen sharing so that they can see you?
Okay. I will close the word, stop sharing. Okay, great. Hello, please, questions? Now you see me.
Yeah, so I think there is one more question.
Yeah, sorry, there's one more question which says, how can one identify if there is any missing sales?
Well, this depends on your system because you need to see when you miss sales. So please see, if I have available stock and I run on one to a shortage, so it is black. The first thing that I need is bring the replenishment, that should have been already, as fast as possible. And then I fill in this one. Otherwise, what do you mean by I missed sale? I had to replenish it, I had to deliver yesterday and I did not, should not happen. You need to learn, if it did happen, learn from it, see, because buffer management had already shouted to you that you went into the red part of the time buffer. Yes, I know, I did not talk on the time buffer here, but if you can just imagine, we have time between now and the time we have committed to our client, and when it comes to the last 1/3 of this time, then buffer management will tell me, you are on the red. Push this production order as fast as possible so you will not miss the sale. This is what we are building, not to miss sales as much as possible. I hope I answered your question. If you would like to rephrase it, please open your mic and ask me directly.
Yeah, I will just suggest people are putting some questions on the chat as well. So maybe if you can probably ask directly as well, like instead of a chat. But yeah, there's one more question which has come in is, please share your views in regards to quality vis-a-vis stock level.
Look, my assumption is I need stock with very good quality. And there is enough quality knowledge in the market from TQM, etc., in which you don't need TOC and Goldratt to tell you how to manage quality. And by the way, when I learned Goldratt because I joined him already in 1985. And then I learned about Deming. And I read Deming and I read Juran also pretty closely. And I could see the similarity. If you look on the control charts of quality, actually it's very similar to buffer management. You just tell you there is some kind in the middle, and I don't care. I don't like things coming too close to the control chart. Certainly I don't like them going beyond the control chart. This is knowledge coming from elsewhere, but this is excellent knowledge, quality. So quality is truly important. The only thing that I have a little bit different views than the TQM, I don't think everything is quality. Okay? I think availability is important. I think predicting what the market might need is so important. There are quite other things as well, but quality, definitely important. So when I'm saying I have stock of 20 units, I probably mean 20 units in very good quality.
So there's one question that's talking about MOQ, that's minimum order quantity. And it says if any SKU comes under MTS, which I'm guessing is made to stock category, and MOQ of this SKU is higher than the norm, that is the level what you have set, then how will we do the replenishment for this SKU without keeping higher stock levels? Is it good to keep this SKU in MTS, which is made to stock?
First of all, yes. The thing, what is to stock and what is to order, is another issue. It does not have anything to do with an MOQ. But I like to challenge the basic idea of MOQ. I'm not saying that there is no cases in which I need to have a minimum batch because of technology, very rarely because of cost, rarely. But if I need, and suppose I have MOQ of 10, it's not important what 10 units, 10 tons, 10 kilograms, never mind. Suppose I have a buffer of 20. 20 is my overall target level, and as I said, in the target level, part is on hand. Suppose right now I have 9 on hand, 11 I hope are coming. But now I've sold another 3. So I went down and now I have in my system 17 instead of 20. And now I like to have a replenishment. But I have an MOQ that maybe I don't believe in it, but my supplier believes in it. And so he said, Eli, you can order only 10. So what can I do? At that time, I will order 10. So from 17 that I have in my stock, once I order another 10, I have 27. When I have 27, I will order my next one only when I penetrate into 20. So this might look to you similar to the reorder point. But here I want to say something. The 20 is how much I need to have in my system in order to ensure availability to my clients. Then I might have things that I dislike because I would like to order, if I sold 3, I would like to order 3. But if this is impossible, what can I do? I don't fight reality. I may try to to convince my supplier, but not necessarily I will be successful. So I will order 10. So the MOQ, if needed, will come on top of the target level. But I want to remind you at any time, if you can get rid of it, get rid of it. Again, we might have a separate issue to prove to you that all the calculation of MOQ are really nonsense in the vast majority of the time. In the vast majority of the time. Sorry for being so blunt, but I learned a big lesson through time, so I became a little bit firm with my knowledge.
Okay, anybody else more? I think so. We are also well within the stipulated time. And if anyone has any questions or anything, we can probably take it, or shall we?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Eli sir, good evening. This is Chetan Verma. We are also connected. We talked about the buffer management, drum buffer, ropes also, and certainly the inventory turn improves the return on investment. Can you talk also on the throughput economics or the costing? Basically, I'm looking from the perspective of the performance of the constraint.
Look, Chetan,
Yes,
in
sir.
this 1.5 hour, I covered small part of the TOC, but it was a small part that I thought was relevant to so many big businesses. There is a lot to do beyond and down and going into services, etc. TOC is very big. And thank you for mentioning my book. I have a new book. I mean, I wrote several, but I have a new book called Throughput Economics that really looking on the financial aspect of sales versus capacity versus all kinds of things. So what is the best deals? How do you even evaluate any opportunities that you have in the market? Or even to say, until now, we had this level of behavior, now there is a new state, we need to offer to the market, we need to get rid of MOQ on things like this. How do we evaluate what will be the financial impact of it? So I think this is a whole book. I'm not going to lay out the book. And so there's so much more of the TOC all around. But TOC believes in focus. And really for giving you kind of a focus in 2 hours, I have chosen the insights that I think are really could make a big change in the time we are now currently. But please get into the kind of knowledge that there is so much more. You can look for my books. We definitely can look for the books of Dr. Eli Goldratt. And from time to time, we need even to take the advantage that we are forced to be at home. I mean, I'm partially locked down. I understand many of you are. So there is time also suddenly available, and you can read much more, because when we go out, things will look a little bit different. And any new insights are important. I hope I answered your question, Chetan.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Fellow, all of you, feel free to write to me.
absolutely.
You can also get to me in LinkedIn. I will connect with you, and any way is good.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have kind of to the end. As Dr. Eli said, you can get in touch with him over email, and he'll be happy to answer all your questions. Because this was just a preliminary session. There were lots of questions as you go along, and you can definitely share with him or Saurav, and Saurav can kind of may I 3P Technology to please sum up and give a vote of thanks to Dr. Eli.
Thank you.
Yeah, in these times, I would firstly like to thank all the participants, because I'm aware of the fact that we all are being bombarded in the last couple of months with a lot of webinars requests, right? So we are seeing every day a few webinars, but I think so. I would say ICC very intelligently chose a meeting rather than a webinar. So I thought, I guess that made some relief or a restraint from people around. But nevertheless, just a quick my thoughts on TOC, and like I really got intrigued with TOC. I would say almost like maybe in early 2000 when Tata Steel was implementing TOC, and in fact, Dr. Eli Goldratt himself was there. So what I particularly liked about TOC was the challenges it made on the conventional beliefs, right? Like, and as Eli mentioned, Goldratt himself came from a science background, like he was a scientist. So it was a very, very scientifically method of thinking on how we can get it into management, right? So one of the few things which I liked was like the way you measure people, they would react. Right. So whether it's a salesman, like a salesman would typically be given a target, say 10 lakhs a month. And so what does the salesman do? He starts dumping just to make sure he achieves that target. Or for a plant manager to run the plant efficiently. So he would manufacture, he would produce by running the plant 100%. So now that's where TOC starts saying is, hey, that's not really important. Like for me to always run my plant on 100% capacity may not be a right decision. So and they say common sense is generally rare, but few of the things, if you look at it, like it looks so very very like obvious, but unfortunately a lot of us do not realize that obvious, or we don't see that obvious, correct? And the moment we start seeing that obvious, and the moment we start few basic principles of TOCs, like how to make sure your production is on time and you're making all your orders on time, or like a dynamic buffer management. So things like that have a very, very big impact on the thing. We have seen that wherever we have implemented TOC, the companies have really seen some good results in terms of production or in terms of stock management, probably in 6 to 9 months of the time of implementation. So, so yes, as Ali said, we also have this software which purely works on TOC, theory of constraint, and make sure all the customers where we are being involved with are getting these results. So I know it's a weekend, and I really thank Eli to have given us such a wonderful presentation. Although yes, as you said, TOC is a very vast subject, but with the limited time, I think so this was pretty insightful, at least to get an idea and to start thinking the way TOC has always. Dr. Goldratt used to say, TOC is a way of thinking, right, rather than implementation. So I guess we have, you have successfully managed to implant that thought in everybody's mind, saying, can I look at things differently rather than the way conventionally I've been looking at. So without taking much time, thank you very much. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your attention. And if anyone needs any further information, or you would want us to have a one-on-one session, more than welcome. We shared Eli's mail ID and my mail ID. And that's it from us, and hope to see you all soon and probably conduct more thing. So have a nice weekend and stay safe. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Eli. Thanks for your time. Hope to see you soon again. And thanks, Aurav, for facilitating this. Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend, all of you.
Thank you.
Yes, sure.
Thanks.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.